760 million already in the first half of the year.
Right.
How much are we going to see by the whole of 2018?
Well, I think it's not unreasonable to suggest $1.5 billion. If we look at the trends from last year and the year before, we're already double or almost triple what we saw in 2017, and we're only halfway through the year. We're seeing new exchanges set up.
Yeah.
They're not quite ready for prime time oftentimes, and that's where we're seeing the money being stolen from.
And so is it being stolen easily because there's a lack of enforcement on the exchange side, or how sophisticated is actually the criminal being here?
So we're seeing the broad swath. So sometimes they go after customers of exchanges, phishing them. Give me your password. Give me your private keys. Sometimes more sophisticated attacks like, let me go after your IT people at the exchange, phish them, and get access to critical systems. Sometimes highly sophisticated, let me plant malicious code inside of your computers and then copy and steal private keys and take over the entire asset base of an exchange.
Is there a regionalization to this?
It's global. Yeah. I mean, the criminals are global, the exchanges are global. It happens to everyone in every country.
What about the global regulators? Because we have seen being called from the exchanges, particularly the more secure, sophisticated ones. We know Coinbase has been wanting to be regulated.
Yep.
They want the industry to grow up. And we've heard from the regulators saying, hey, know your customer, AML, anti-money laundering. And are we starting to see regulators get it?
Regulators are definitely getting it. Now, it's different from country to country, but we've seen a lot of great work in the U.S. Europe is really being very forward-thinking. It's interesting to look at how people are looking at it. Sometimes it's very defensive. So let's take existing laws, tweak them a tiny bit, or just apply them. And you have other people who are more progressive, like Malta, part of the EU, and they're aggressively trying to be crypto island. Bring exchanges in from all around the world. You know, come to our country. We give you a very clean set of AML, anti-money laundering, and know your customer regs. We'll give you a low tax rate, and we'll have a nice regulatory environment to encourage you to come and invest in our countries and bring crypto here. Same is happening in Bermuda, and we're seeing it in a few other countries, really trying to be forward-thinking.
And will this be enough? Will this end up ensuring that exchanges are strong enough, are sophisticated enough to ensure that then they're not as easily hacked and you start becoming more like the banks have had to grow to be? Yeah,
and if you look at the banking industry, if you remember back, say 10 years ago when phishing was really starting to get going against consumers and businesses that use banks, the regulators had to step in a little bit and put recommendations and say, well, here's the best practices to stop phishing, to detect transactions. You know, if we're in London and then 20 minutes later we're doing transactions from Russia and then from California, our account's been hacked. Same is going to start happening with regulators and best practices in the crypto industry.
Talk to us, give us a flavor of some of the more extraordinary ways you found these new breed of criminals start to identify and target particular exchanges and players.
So the criminals are smart. They're going where the money is, and these are very educated people. So if you thought phishing was bad, I mean, these are people who grew up with knowing cryptology and cryptocurrency from the beginning. They know malware code. They have access to all the best tools, but they also understand social engineering, and you don't have to be the best coder in the world. You have to be good at tricking people. So they're very, very good about, for example, figuring out who in IT is at a crypto exchange, targeting them with one or two very targeted, simple emails to get their passwords to critical systems so they can actually move a whole exchange over for maybe an hour or two, but take over all the traffic. Or planting a very special piece of code inside of an exchange to get them access to then copy code. Or how about this? We'll hijack the cell phone number of one of the critical employees, maybe even a C-level employee, port their phone number over.
Which they've done to those who actually own crypto.
That's right. Well, they do it to people who work in exchanges. And now when messages come in about security validations, password codes, it's going to the criminal and not the employee.
What are you guys doing? You've just launched a new product. So how much can CipherTrace be offering products to help educate and to help ensure that the exchanges aren't getting targeted in this way?
We're seeing the industry mature, and what we've been doing is creating anti-money laundering capabilities for these crypto exchanges and for hedge funds and other investors who need to verify the source of funds didn't come from stolen sources or maybe from malware. And
I think this is what people perhaps misconceive is that you can trace bad actions within crypto. It's not completely unidentifiable. The fact is, it's in a forever there ledger to a certain extent. It's just, you got to work that much harder.
Yeah, I mean, it's difficult to figure out who's who, and you can also get a lot of value by figuring out what's a good transaction versus not just finding the bad ones. Because if you risk score a transaction, in the same ways you would with a credit card transaction or even a bank login, if you apply that to crypto, you can start to say, well, these are all looking pretty safe, pretty good. And these ones we don't know anything about, or we see some bad traffic, and you can then score out the customers or the funds that are dangerous and keep them off your system.
It's going to be fascinating to see how this industry continues to grow and as protection continues to grow.
It's going to grow up. Everybody wants it. The institutional investors want it. The consumers want it. The exchanges want it. So I think it's a great maturing phase for the industry.